we go. Everybody's doing well today. It'll be another long day. I am feeling a little bit better than yesterday. Yesterday I was beat. It's a long weekend in the sun. What did I want to do? Oh yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and just get a post out. Then we'll jump right into it. Oh, I didn't even use the other camera. Whoops, too late. Live. We'll just say that. See if this works better. Just having nothing other than live. Live, period. Might work, might not. Gotta figure out a way to capture an audience. I guess you guys could help if you'd like. You could share the stream today. Go ahead and drop a like. Invite a friend in, family member, colleague, I'm not sure. Probably not your dog. Your dog can't type. But I've said that before. And, maybe we do have a large dog audience. But we'll jump right into it. Okay, that's posted. Everything else seems to be working, so. Oh, okay. Well, today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. This is episode number 66 of Addressing the Issues. We'll start off today with NATO is showing signs of completely unraveling. There have been calls over recent years to disband the alliance, for the U.S. to leave the alliance. But it's starting to show its cracks in the foundation. This was expressed during a White House meeting with German Chancellor Merz. President Trump claimed that he urged, I believe it was Scott Bessent, to cut ties with Spain over not allowing U.S. planes to land in the country during the Iran war buildup. We'll continue to call it the Iran war because that's what I consider it. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the White House considers it. But yes, we've apparently cut economic ties with Spain. They also were struggling in the NATO alliance to reach the 5% spending mark, still around 2%, if I'm not mistaken. I believe less than 2%, which was the previous standard for GDP allocation to defense, I guess, to be in the NATO alliance. So on that end, it is showing fragility, along with U.S. relations with the UK. The UK did not allow U.S. planes to land at Diego Garcia, which is a air base, if I'm not mistaken, in the Indian Ocean, small island. But U.S. wasn't allowed to land planes there during the Iranian operation, causing longer flights, more airframe hours, and slower resupplies than what we would expect from an ally in NATO. So it's showing cracks in both the UK and Spain right now. And Poland has decided that they're going to take matters into their own hands, not as a, I guess, backstab at the U.S., but to ensure the security of Europe. Poland has claimed that it will work to attain its own nuclear deterrent, as Europe has worries the U.S. will not extend its nuclear commitment to attack by Russia on the European continent. So they're being proactive. I don't blame them. I think that's probably a good decision, especially in a more and more interconnected world. I don't fear Poland having nuclear weapons. I guess not more than any country in the Middle East, surely. I don't feel like Poland is, going to go try and take over the world. I don't think it has the resources to do so. But I do think it's wise that they would arm themselves with nuclear weapons as a deterrent to Russia, especially given the UK and France both have nuclear stockpiles. And I'm more worried about them, honestly, than I would be if Poland had access to a nuclear weapon. There are rogue actors, I would call them, in both France and the UK. I think Poland is way more based upon, maintaining its sovereign status than the other two, especially given their stance on immigration and stuff. I think it's a lot better that they have it than the other two. And I don't know that the other two would come to the defense of Poland just because of its stance on immigration being a more nationalistic country, country that does want to maintain its heritage. So, I think it's good that these countries are slowly starting to step up and fend for themselves, not just asking for the U.S. handout of defense, which was the plan, from the beginning of NATO. After World War II, it was, just ask the U.S. for handouts and they'll give them to you because you're not aligned with the USSR. In a modern age, with missiles that can reach Poland in, I'd guess, less than 30 minutes, it's probably a lot better off that they have, deterrence and not rely on the U.S. to answer a phone call and then move ships across the Atlantic to Poland's defense. So I do believe it's reasonable for them to acquire these weapons for their own sovereignty and to bolster the European side of NATO, which historically has been lackluster at best. Dependent is probably a more accurate term. Dependent on the U.S., dependent on U.S. defense, dependent on U.S. money. But, I've long argued the U.S. should leave NATO. It doesn't particularly help us. I don't believe these countries are going to come to our defense. Even if it was an existential threat, I don't think these countries are coming to our defense. But I do believe that they're more inclined to work as a bloc with one another, and possibly, the U.S. wouldn't even be needed for this defense, this one-sided deal for, I guess, 80 years now? Roughly 80, post-World War II order. So yes, I believe, even though that NATO is showing signs of fracture, I do believe that there are countries willing to step up. I see Poland as one of them that does want to ensure a prosperous Europe without sticking their hands out for the U.S., to the U.S. every single time. But we'll move on. That's just a minor story of what's going on in the grand scheme of things right now. So today, the White House confirmed that Operation Epic Fury is not a war, but a special military operation. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. I remember the last time I heard the words special military operation. And it's resulted in a seeming forever war for Russia and Ukraine. Uh-oh. Kick seems to be going down. That's not good. President Trump claimed today that Israel didn't force my hand to attack Iran. Maybe I am the one who forced their hand. This is some off-the-cuff rhetoric. I don't believe this, not one bit. I believe this is one of those, zingers he used to have back on the campaign trail and previous time. Let's see what's... Oh, there we go. Okay. I think the executive branch is working PR overtime, given Marco Rubio's claims yesterday regarding that Israel was going to strike and the U.S. was going to be retaliated against either way. I believe that's much more likely of a story than President Trump being the one to force the hand to attack Iran. Because he knew that would be a PR disaster going into it, especially running on the no new wars coalition ticket, whatever you want to call it, non-interventionalist. And then now we have, what looks like it's going to be an all-out war with Iran. But we'll continue on with that later. New revelations in that. But yesterday, Marco Rubio claimed the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing for Iran. Now, what does that mean? What is this next phase? I thought this was a special military operation. I thought maybe, if it was special, maybe it'd be over. There wouldn't be a plethora of phases going into it. Phases that have already resulted in the loss of life of multiple individuals, multiple U.S. citizens, U.S. soldiers. I don't know what more punishing is going to entail. We can theorize what that could mean. It could mean troops on the ground. It could mean larger, more deadly weapons. It could mean a number of things. War on different levels, unconventional weapons. But yeah, that's what the next phase will be even more punishing could mean. It could mean attacks from within Iran. Just so many things given recent developments. But another, crucial development is allies in the region are running out of interceptors, and that the U.S. and its allies may not have enough to go around. The UAE is currently projected to exhaust its interceptor missile stock within 1 week, given the current rate. Qatar is expected to exhaust its interceptor missile stockpile within 4 days, and both are urgently seeking additional military support from the United States currently. And responding to reports from several media outlets, the Pentagon's stocks of interceptor missiles and other munitions are beginning to run low in the conflict with Iran. President Trump countered this claim, saying we have unlimited middle and upper ammunition. I don't know how accurate that is, given there's been reports of discussions to pull THAAD and Patriot missile systems out of South Korea. to reposition them into the Middle East, meaning there is obviously some shortage. Nobody knows exactly what Israel's interceptor situation is. I can't imagine that it's much better than anybody else's, given they've been intercepting missiles for a year longer than anyone else has had to, and will be likely funding all of these in the region, these stockpiles, refunding them, rebuilding them, positioning assets from Asia into the region, which cost money. It's not free to fly in missile systems, sail them over if need be. It's not free to do all of this. It's not free to acquire the missiles. So it does seem, that there is a ongoing worry that we could run out, or at least some of our allies could, and that would be disastrous for some of these smaller nations. I mean, they're small targets with precise weapons. I mean, you could see, huge buildings getting hit over and over and over again just because there's no interceptors left, especially in the UAE and Qatar. It would cause a tremendous loss of life, tremendous loss of money for these countries. I guess they can afford losing a little bit of money, but I don't know that anybody is okay with losing life, losing civilian lives, soldier lives. I don't think any of these countries are going to be okay with that just because they ran out of interceptors. And it's probably going to cause problems with this makeshift alliance. There's going to be rifts. There's going to be arguments. I wouldn't call them discussions. I'd call them arguments about allocation of resources. Because contrary to what President Trump said, they don't come out in infinite numbers. You don't they just appear out of nowhere. Somebody has to build them somewhere. They have to be shipped in. They're not just shot out of the factory and intercept missiles. That's just not how it works. So, there's a lot of short-term issues right now with that, which will transfer into vast long-term issues. We'll move on. My tax dollars are at work in the Middle East. Imagine if those same tax dollars were to fund infrastructure at U.S. airports. Guess what? They'll be used to rebuild airports in the Middle East that have been hit in recent days before they fund anything in the U.S. I can guarantee you that. We'll have the President Trump wing at some UAE airport because they got bombed out before, they fix Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, before they fix the airports in Newark, before they fix the airport in LA. We'll likely have a President Trump wing in multiple Middle Eastern countries before we get our airports fixed, before we get the wait times at TSA fixed. But that's just, that's how we roll. We're a little more concerned about other nations' interests than we are our own. That seems to be a major problem, a repeating problem today. An issue that just seemingly spirals more and more out of control every election. You think, oh, these people make it better, and they're just worse than the last ones. It's a defeating, like a morale defeating cycle that we're engaged in. It truly is. So, we'll talk about a little bit about the range of responses given to the secession of Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, who's going to take over next. Iran's expert council claimed yesterday choosing Ayatollah Khomeini's successor will not take a long time, which is, pertinent to the situation when you are looking for regime change. President Trump claimed today that most of the people we had in mind are dead, so we had some in mind from that group that is dead, and now we have another group that may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody. Which is a little alarming when you intend to do regime change, especially if you're looking to replace someone internally from internally in the country, in the regime. Somebody who you'd think would be a little bit better but wouldn't deviate from norms too much. They deviate in the right places and not in others. Like further radicalizing the IRGC. Maybe you'd find some and not fund terror in the region. They would hold democratic elections. Like, this would be an ideal candidate for regime change. But these are probably needles in a haystack, and if you keep blowing up the haystack, the needles are going to be scattered out everywhere, I guess. Or you'll just destroy them all. I mean, it's pretty crazy how we're just indiscriminately bombing every single person there that holds power. I mean, it's going to create a huge power vacuum. And I guess that is the goal with this regime change, especially given developments that they're seeking Kurdish armies to, I guess, infiltrate from the west, I believe. Yeah, west. Kurdish armies from Turkey, Iraq, both going into the region to, I guess, further destabilize things. They've allegedly been trained since the 12 Days War, so I guess they're ready, itching for some stake in the game. And I guess we've been working with them for dozens of years now, since Iraq, so maybe they've created at least some credibility with the U.S. government, although we have no idea how they would work when given their own nation, so that seems to be a risk. Like I was saying, I think the ideal candidate would be somebody internally who sympathizes with U.S. causes, democracy, oil trade, not funding terror groups, Hezbollah, stuff like this. I think this would be the ideal candidate. But if you blow them up, like has been reported today, well, that person, no longer can hold office, no longer can be your puppet to lead Iran in a large faction of the Middle East. It was reported just moments before I began that the Iranian Supreme Council was counting the votes to appoint the next supreme leader when Israel struck the meeting location, presumptively, likely, I guess, killing other candidates for regime change. And maybe all these were bad guys. Maybe every single one of them was. But took no look at them to vet them, I guess. Just got rid of them all. I don't know exactly what the end goal of regime change is going to be. Maybe it is installing a Kurdish government in a majority Persian state. I don't see how that could go wrong. I'm sure nobody else can figure that out. Installing a minority government in a religious state That can't go wrong, could it, guys? No chance. But yeah, it looks like going through all possible future leaders right now with drone strikes, and maybe the candidate that Washington has already selected has been ousted from the country already. That is a possibility. It could be that the ideal suitor for this position is, living in exile. I don't know how well received that is going to be either. Bringing someone out of exile to lead a country is a little risky, in my opinion. But it is a possibility. It's just hard to know exactly how this new leader is going to be received by a radical government, or not a radical government, but I guess a radicalized people by their previous government. And I mean, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but the way this sounds like it's going to go is a little bit like Iraq. We'll do it once. We'll find somebody who's worse than the last one, and we'll be like, oh, we need to get rid of him too, and then we'll, plunge the country into third world government poverty finances like we have before. And, given their relation to the oil trade, which we'll talk about shortly as well, it's going to have repercussions for not just the U.S., but around the world. Let's talk a little bit about President Trump's posts on Truth Social today. He writes, the United States munitions stockpiles at the medium and upper medium grade have never been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever and very successfully, using just these supplies, which are better than other countries' finest arms. At the highest end, we have a good supply, but are not where we want to be. Much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for us in outlying countries. Sleepy Joe Biden spent all of his time and our country's money giving everything to P.T. Barnum, Zelensky of Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars worth, and while he gave so much of the super high-end away free, he didn't bother to replace it. Fortunately, I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so. The United States is stocked and ready to win big. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Well, he said the word, guys. He said the word. Forever. Forever. I mean, I thought we were told no more forever wars. It seems that this is, I guess, the one exemption to that. We're willing to fight Iran forever. I mean, you want to talk about P.T. Barnum? That is a P.T. Barnum moment. Running in the circus, a forever war. Whoever's doing the communications for him, it's been revealed that somebody else, listens to what he says and then writes it down and posts it. He doesn't type these out himself, allegedly. I mean, there's been videos released of it. But they should have just said, wait, do you want me to include the word forever? And then probably asked him, are you sure, about 57 times before posting it. And then probably just not have done it anyways. Shouldn't have said forever. That is another absolute PR nightmare that's happened in the last 100 hours, 4 days. I know those two aren't the same, but the messaging going into this has been a disaster. Now that it's started, it's only getting worse. There's no standardized line of communications. People are saying some things, other people in the administration are saying others. There's no cohesiveness to the messaging. It's just say what sounds good at the moment, and then we'll continue to lie to cover your butt until people just can't figure out what's going on. I think it was like a ball of yarn. You have this ball in the middle, and you attach the piece of yarn to it, and the yarn is just lies. And you roll this ball of yarn up and just keep lying and lying and lying until you absolutely conceal the truth about what this is all about. And that's what it kind of feels like. We're just wrapping up lies and other lies, tangling the lies in together until everybody hopefully just forgets what the core truth is in the middle. That's what it feels like with this whole messaging thing, especially with how I don't even know the right word for it. Confusing, ill-prepared possibly is the correct word. The messaging is for what we're doing in the Middle East, what our goals are with Iran. The messaging just seems ill-prepared at the very best. I guess also, after it was declared that Iran would be closing the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, today global markets have absolutely tanked. European markets fell around 3% on average today. In other countries' markets that fell about 3% are Japan. South Korea, their markets dropped a whole 7% today. The U.S. stock market, only dropped 0.8%. It's still below 50,000. So I guess you guys know what that means. Means the Epstein files are still in play. I think I'm going to make that joke every day until Pam Bondi's right again. What are you mad about? The markets are above 50,000. That's what you should care about. That's still the craziest thing I've ever seen an attorney general say. I guess the only market that was unaffected today was the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. It rose 6%, I believe it was Monday. But it was closed today for the holiday of Purim. If you're not familiar with what this holiday is, it is the saving of the Jewish people by Queen Esther from annihilation of the Achaemenid Empire. I feel like I'm mispronouncing this. I worked on pronunciation of this so long earlier. Achaemenid, something like that. Empire. It's an ancient empire which was centered around present-day Iran. Does this sound familiar? It seems like this has been going on forever. And the U.S. has gotten entangled in it in the year of our Lord 2026. I'll check once more. Okay, so I'm still right. The price per barrel of crude oil is up another 5% today, meaning it's going to cost more to fill up your tank per usual. And I guess in an attempt to prevent the closure or the blockage of the Suez Canal, I would assume from airstrikes, missile launches from Iran or its proxies, France has deployed an aircraft carrier to protect said Suez Canal. So maybe that major artery of trade will continue to remain open. I do believe it's likely a high-value target to disrupt trade, disrupt movement of equipment in and out of the region. And I guess, disrupt trade globally. I don't remember exactly what it is. It's a surprisingly large portion of global trade does go through the Suez Canal. And blocking it would, be a thorn in the side of the U.S. and a major victory for Iran and its proxies, and just its attempt to hurt us. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts type thing. They're not going to be able to conquer the U.S., but they can make this, more painful than we're okay with, and that's, I believe, the goal, especially in the targeting of loosely allied countries in the Middle East, namely Qatar, UAE. They're trying to make this unbelievably painful for everybody because they know, in all reality, that's all they have left to do is just make whatever intervention the U.S. seeks to do the most painful it can. And it's like what I was talking about yesterday. It's like their last act of jihad. This is the grand hurrah. This is how it all comes crashing down. And we're going to make it painful for everybody else. We might not be able to make it crash down for you, but we can surely make you uncomfortable while it happens to us. And I think that's their goal here, their last hurrah. President Trump, about 2-3 hours ago, released a statement regarding the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. He says, effective immediately, I have ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide at a very reasonable price political risk insurance and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines if necessary. The United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. The United States' economic and military might is the greatest on earth. More actions to come. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. I believe I reported yesterday, if not, apparently the whole Arab Gulf portion of the Iranian Navy had been sunk. I guess the likely way that they have closed down the Strait of Hormuz, or claim that it's been closed down, is likely missile-based. They likely have the Strait of Hormuz, a key position, probably above it on the beach. Well, not on the beach, but in the interior, capable of striking ships that go through the region with these short-range missiles, drones. Your average oil cargo ship doesn't have drone defenses on it. So it's not going to be able to defend itself. We're going to have the U.S. Navy go in and, I guess, attempt to intercept missiles targeting vessels carrying oil from the region. It's a large amount of the global oil trade. The Strait of Hormuz facilitates about 20 to 25% of the global oil trade. Meaning this, shuts down almost, a fifth to a quarter of oil globally. But this doesn't change the fact that Iran has pledged that they're going to stop passage. It probably, like I said, means they're just going to be shooting missiles down into the strait the whole time, meaning U.S. intervention will be for missile interception and likely strikes back onto these facilities, likely are fortified fortified, likely or underground. And the fact that, nothing has been ruled out. We haven't ruled out troops on the ground. Meaning, it's a possibility, a true possibility, that the U.S. will establish a beachhead in Iran around the Strait of Hormuz so these ships can get passage. But this is this is signing on to a forever war, putting boots on the ground in Iran to go stop these facilities from launching attacks into the Strait of Hormuz, slowing global trade, if not completely halting it. I think this is, a realistic proposition that could happen. We'll be putting U.S. troops on the little jutted out piece of land in Iran, on a beachhead, on Iranian soil, just to ensure that these missiles stop coming into the Strait of Hormuz for this oil trade. And once you dip your toes into something like boots on the ground, it's like, oh, what's a few more? And then all of a sudden you have tens of thousands of troops in Iran, and you're like, oh, let's just, waltz in the Tehran. I can't see a way that this is going to work out well. I do accept we have the best military in the world. I also accept that Iran is huge. It has a huge military. Has a ton of people. A lot of them don't regard the U.S. in high standards. They're going to be hostile. It's not like they're going to... What was it when they claimed when we would invade Iraq, they would throw roses at us or flowers at us? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to be pelted with flowers. I think it's more likely pelted with drones and missiles. But since they haven't ruled out boots on the ground, U.S. nor Israel has ruled out U.S. boots on the ground. Israel hasn't even ruled out Israeli boots on the ground, IDF boots on the ground. So, this could be a beachhead along the Strait of Hormuz just so these ships can get through. And that is, probably not the most defendable position to be in, surrounded on two different sides by a military force on their home soil, looking through caves, underground infrastructure to find militants, find missiles. It's just not a good proposition, but I think this is a likely one, something very likely that could happen in the near future. We'll move on from that. I see the likelihood of a beachhead in Iran becoming more and more likely by the hour right now, especially given the rhetoric we've been told, we've been subjected to in recent days. But yeah, we'll move on. Marco Rubio stated today and pleaded with the media, every news source in America, to push out that we have identified and continue to identify charter flights, military flight options, and expanded commercial flight options for Americans needing assistance with evacuation of the Middle East. He stated, we need to know where you are. We need to have contact information for Americans that need assistance. They have to register with us because as these options begin to open up, and as they open up, we have to be able to call you. So it seems more is going to happen. Countries identified for evacuation. Countries that they are telling American citizens to depart include Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, the West Bank and Gaza, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. Basically the whole region. But when the warning is this dire, it seems that things are only going to get worse. You normally wouldn't warn everybody the worst is yet to come when things are only going to get better. So there's that. I figured I would pass that along if any of my viewers are in the Middle East. Go ahead and call the State Department. You can call them 24/7 at 1-202-501-4444. If you're in the Middle East, give them a call and have them pick you up, because it sounds like it's going to get bad soon. Real bad. Yesterday I, theorized a little bit on how does this end. I think, that's the question everybody's asking right now. How is this going to end? And it's a fair question. But I do think President Trump's post from today hints at the reality. That this could technically go on forever. The conflicts in the Middle East seem to last way longer than anybody ever expects. We do it once, take a little break while our new installed guy turns as bad as or worse than the last person, and then we decide, hey, let's get rid of them, and then this cycle happens over and over and over again until the country devolves into a state of constant conflict, a state in which we can't use them economically. They're not economically viable themselves because they are inevitably in internal war. But given the War Powers Act, the president has a 60-day window to send armed forces to act in the defense of America. So I guess the number of days on that now is down to 56. The War Powers Act claims that the executive must report to Congress within 48 hours of use of military force if Congress has not declared war or statutorily authorized the action. I believe this was done with Marco Rubio's briefing of the Gang of Eight. I believe he also briefed Congress in general today. I could look into that probably quickly. I can't. I believe he did, but I also believe the briefing of the Gang of Eight technically counts as briefing Congress. So Congress has been briefed. Another clause, an interesting clause in the War Powers Act, is the president can get another 30 days added on to the end of the 60 days by certifying in writing to Congress the need for continued use of force. I believe that's probably what's going to happen. I don't know that this special military operation is going to last only 60 days. I think he'll say, we need another 30 days and we'll get it all done. And then, 60 days turns to 90 days, turns to, we can get this done in a year, turns to no more than 5 years in Iran. And then we're there 20 years later, and some sleepy guy decides, you know what, we're just going to pull out and let our soldiers get obliterated at Abbey Gate. I mean, that's how I see this going. I don't see this as a 60 or 90 day special military operation. I don't think it's going to be like, I mean, I think it is going to be like when Russia said, oh, we'll overturn Ukraine in 3 days. I think it'll be a lot more along the lines of that, a war that is planned for 60 days, goes on to 90 days, goes on to multiple years, with no real end goal besides regime change, and we keep changing the regime over and over and over again, as historically we're known for. Like, I don't think there is a plan beyond regime change. And, you know, like I said, historically, regime change for the U.S. means we go back again in 20 years because a more advanced problem develops than the one we thought we could fix the first time. And then the cycle continues and the forever wars continue. I don't see how this was a good idea for the U.S. to get involved in. We're just entangled in a mess, not even of our own making for the most part. I mean, we did, allow this to happen in the first place 47 years ago. It was allegedly a surprise to the CIA of the developments in Iran installing the Revolutionary Guard, or the Revolutionary Islamist government regime. Allegedly, it was a surprise. We also, allowed the Ayatollah to go in and take over, and now we have this mess on our hands 47 years later. And now we've decided we're going to fix 47 years of problems by regime change, which, typically gives us roughly the same amount of time in years of problems. So, I can't see where the end goal of this is, other than regime change. What is regime change? I don't know. That's the answers we're getting. If you want to have a special military operation, a short one, you need to have a plan. You have to have the answers for the end goal. And right now, we're making up the answers as we go. Every press conference is a different answer. We went from no new wars to talking about wars and forever in the same length of time. It's infuriating. It's confusing. It's not confusing in a broader sense. It's confusing as to why we wouldn't have a plan. Why we go into this blind. We go into this, with no plan other than immediate destruction, find solutions after. But so how does this end? I don't know that it ever does. I think President Trump alluded to it perfectly earlier. This could go on forever. And we'll just leave it at that. This is something that could go on for a majority of my lifetime. For some of the people that I know watching, they could technically die before they ever see the end of this. And that's a scary thought. This is the world I came into shortly before 9/11, but it's defined my entire adult life, defined my entire juvenile life as well. Security on Americans disguised as national security, Patriot Act. This is all I've ever known, and it's only going to get worse. It never gets any better. They never say, oh, maybe we overstepped our boundaries last time. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back and give the government less power. It's never happened. I would if anybody can point out in chat, the time that the government said, hey, we've overstepped Let's pull back our power. Point out one incident. You're going to be thinking for a long time because it's never happened. But I'll leave it there. I do believe this is going to end up, as President Trump alluded to, a forever war. The exact thing he campaigned against time and time again. And I guess he fooled us all. We'll wrap it up there for today. I've got some things to do this evening, some stuff to do tomorrow. Make sure you guys are dropping a like, subscribing on YouTube, following on Kick, following on Rumble. Following on Rumble. If you'd like to help me out financially, you can subscribe on Rumble, do a super chat on Rumble, donate. It's all up to you. I appreciate mostly that you guys just come around, stick around every day. All of you, I guess, have a intent to learn about what's going on, get a better understanding. So I appreciate that. I think that's probably, another one of the most important things is the knowledge gets out. People understand how they're being manipulated. Let's see. The next administration can work on nation building because that always works out well for us. Yeah, I guess we're maybe like 10, 20 years away from Sesame Street Iran again. Maybe the kids over there will love it. We'll have Sesame Street in Arabic. Yeah, because that helps me out so much. Makes my life better every single day. Knowing I could tune in the PBS Iran and watch Sesame Street in Arabic. Maybe I'd learn a new language or something. Maybe we can supply condoms to Kurdish forces or something. I don't know. Give people transgender surgeries in the Middle East for free. Nation building. Of course. I don't think we have armed IRS agents anymore. That's absurd. Maybe. I'd say they're probably still armed. It's just not documented. They've changed their tactics. They put away the gun on the holster for a long gun in the console of their car. They're now holding up snipers outside of people who don't pay their taxes. That's not real. It's a joke, guys. Unless you can verify it for me. You see an IRS agent posted up outside your house with an AR-15, be like, all right, maybe this has gone too far. Maybe we should just give them their 9mm back and just live with it. But that's probably the only example you can think of where the government has said, okay, we overreached with this one. Beyond that, I guess that's a pretty evident overreach. I don't know that the tax people need to show up armed, I guess, unless they really need their money back. It's like the Italian mafia. The Gambino crime family shows up at your door, but they're wearing an IRS outfit. That's absurd. We'll do a quick check and see if there's anything else that's broke. Obviously, the embassies in the region, CIA stations are getting pelted right now. CIA station in Saudi Arabia hit by a drone. Dubai consulate on fire. This isn't cheap. This isn't going to be cheap. And it's not going out of President Trump's donors' pockets. It's coming out of every single taxpayer's pockets. And, that's the most damning thing about it is that we fund this with, I guess, at the behest of these armed IRS agents. Maybe they will start showing back up to your door with a gun Pay your taxes so we can bomb Iran. Absolutely crazy stuff. Let me check through and make sure there's no more chats. But yeah, make sure you guys are dropping a like, and following, subscribing, whatever it is. Turn your notifications on. I'm not sure if I'll be live tomorrow. I hope to be so, but I do have a business meeting for lunch. I have no idea how long it will go on. So that's my plan for tomorrow. I hope to be back. If not, I could be back Thursday. I might be working Thursday, just depending on how tomorrow goes. I mean, everything's up in the air right now on my end. But yeah, I'll leave it there. I won't get too far into personal business details because nothing's set in stone right now. Oh, here's something interesting I just found. Ali Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, has been named as new supreme leader of Iran. I guess that means, the white smoke came out of the last bomb blast or something. And they said, oh, we have a new leader. I don't think that's how it works. It might work like that in Iran. Tehran strategy, expand war, increase cost, outlast Trump. I think I talked about that enough today. But yeah, that's what we have for today. Crude oil is still up over 5%. I was watching it go up in about 5 minutes. I watched it go up 0.2% earlier. It was like, that was right before I started. And I was just like, wow, this is absurd to watch in real time. You can just see it. 4.93, 4.95, 5.01. It was just going up and up and up. It seems to have reached a peak and then dropped back down to just over 5% now. And that's going to have real life effects on you, the consumer, whether you drive a gas car or an electric car. Believe it or not, they're still burning fossil fuels that charge your electric cars, so that's a story for another time. I think most people know that, though. Oh, there was also the release of both Clinton's depositions in the Epstein case. There's 9 hours of footage. I haven't had time to look through a single second of it. But don't think I haven't forgot about, or I have forgot about the whole Epstein files thing. Yes, the Iran war is probably a larger story and possibly partially a distraction from this Epstein mess that we've entangled ourselves in. But that story isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going away. We still deserve more answers than we've received. And I think the Clintons will have some interesting information on it, given their ties to him. But yeah, I'll try and look through that in the coming days. 9 hours is a long time to listen to these old crazy people, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So I'll look into these. I haven't forgotten about the ties between Epstein's Island co-conspirators and the Bohemian Grove list of visitors either. It's just, once again, I haven't had any time to go through it. We've decided to jump into kinetic war with Iran instead. So, great distraction. 10 out of 10. Nobody appreciates it. We'll get off here. I've said that probably 4 times a day. There's just so much going on. I don't have enough time to cover it as one person. I'll attempt to do my best over coming days. But like I said, I can't even assure that I'll be on tomorrow, just given life developments. It is what it is. I hope you all enjoyed. You'll drop a like, and I guess I'll see you again when I see you again. So, to all my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong and get home safe as well. Pray for our troops in the Middle East. This is not looking like a great situation. Once again, thank you all for watching. I'll talk to you again, I guess, when I talk to you again. See ya.